All right. Here we go. Back again on the other side of the coin. Look who I have got on live. It's my boy, Matisse Amani. I remember when I first started YouTube a long time ago. Probably not that long ago, probably about a year and a bit ago, but I wasn't too serious. It was more just a platform for us boys to just have a conversation, more than the 2 minutes 20 given in Twitter. And I remember Matisse was my first ever podcast guest or whatever you want to call a recording guest. And here we are. After all of this time, Matisse, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Literally, I remember that very well now. Yeah, I was your first guest. And then now I've set up my channel, and a lot of the Twitter people that were making videos back then are now setting up channels. So we're slowly migrating over here. And then the next generation hopefully will follow. So it's a cycle. So it's good.
100%, man. I mean, I think a lot of people, off the bat, I think I must say, obviously, Alex Goldberg is the one who started with the videos and whatnot. But I think you took the video sort of sensation to a different level, which then sort of made pathways for others to then think that maybe they could probably express their feelings as well. Obviously, not to your sort of entertaining level, but at least they gave them a bit of a heart to say, you know what, maybe I can express myself. So kudos to you, my man, for at least setting up that platform, man.
I hope so. I mean, I'm very different to Alex. I tried to go more down the funny route, comedy, or just not serious a lot of the time. But obviously, every now and then I'll drop like a serious video on my opinion. But I try to sometimes you just see me drinking and dancing. That's just how I am. So it's been good, and we got a lot of heat for it, but we really don't care.
Absolutely. We got no time for that kind of stuff, Matisse. Matisse, let's get straight into it, right? We got a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff happening, a lot of not so good stuff happening, and we need to unpack a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I want to paint a picture because I feel like an artist today, Matisse. I want to paint you a picture, right? Before, I suppose when the season first started, this season, obviously, Ziyech wasn't around, and because of an injury and whatnot, he wasn't playing, and our football was probably not to the level that we kind of expected with all the investments that we've made this season, and rightly so at that point because it was early in the season, new players, takes time to gel in. We didn't have a preseason, so on and so forth. Our style was not completely there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Ziyech came in and we went through that really nice run, unbeaten run. We had some really nice wins as well. And you could somewhat see, the different style or the combination play with Ziyech. And then once again, Ziyech gets injured. And here we are again with the prehistoric style of football. What I'm trying to get to is, Matisse, has Frank Lampard really set up this season based on one player?
I would hope not, because that would be a little bit daft, seeing as we're meant to be trying to build a balanced team. I've always said I'm a little bit disappointed that we don't have a plan B. I mean, I've always asked for him to have a solid plan, a solid formation, a solid system, and not keep switching formations, which he did a lot last season. But now he's obviously gone too far and he doesn't have a secondary plan at all. And that's something that Sarri was criticised for very heavily when he was here, is that he had a very one-track mind formation system, obviously way more fleshed out than Lampard's, but he never had a secondary plan. He never had a plan B. And that's something that, even though I want a fundamental plan, I would want a plan B because injuries happen. I think, especially out wide, we knew Pulisic was injury prone. We knew, well, I hope they knew. Hudson-Odoi has got injury problems as well. I'd hope they know that. And Ziyech is a little bit of a shot in the dark. It's a bit of surprise, but he's also now got injury issues. So a formation with no wingers or a plan with no wingers on the pitch would have been helpful. It would have been great because obviously we didn't get that fourth winger because of the Timo Werner depth. But just in general, man, even when Ziyech was playing, I felt like we were still crossing a lot. It's just that we were crossing from another angle, and he crossed from the right with his left, and it created a different type of cross, so it looked sexier. It's still crossing at the end of the day. I don't mind crossing because Liverpool cross, but I don't like it when we cross, but we don't have the ingredients in the box to score. So there's no numbers in the box. You've got Kante's beautiful bald head in there, challenging against 6'5" centre halves. That doesn't work. You're leaving Giroud off the pitch for 90 minutes against Arsenal when you continue to keep crossing. that doesn't work. So
Yeah.
there's so many things that if you're going to do it, at least give yourself the best chance. And we don't always do that, which is frustrating.
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, look, there's no doubt that even with Ziyech, as you said, we did produce a lot more crosses. But I think the thing that Ziyech adds as well, his link-up play, the way he combines with other players and those intricate passes through the middle. And then there's a really, really good goal against Burnley. I remember that Ziyech scored where, he puts Werner wide, then Werner sort of passes it to Tammy. Tammy then lays it off to Ziyech. Ziyech first time hits it and gets a goal. There was another good goal against Burnley where I remember Reece James intercepted it, passes it to Ziyech. Ziyech then puts Werner first time, and Werner then puts it through. So I feel like he produces that kind of stuff along with the crosses, which is great. But now let's look at some of the recent times, Matisse. I called you Ziyech accidentally. But, in recent times, since Ziyech has been injured, Matisse, let's go to Everton game, right? Because that was the start of when he wasn't around.
Yeah.
We looked. I thought that particular game was uncharacteristic. I just gave them the benefit of the doubt that you've had a good run, and this is probably the one reality check you needed, and you're going to come back again. But that wasn't the case. Wolves again, the same thing. They sort of sat deep, and then obviously in the second half when they were behind, they really caught us off guard with the energy and intensity. We once again had the same sort of plan, which was just cross, cross, cross. Similarly with West Ham, even though I felt, the score kind of flattered us, but without the ball, we kind of controlled West Ham in the sense that they didn't create any big chances. But let's not sort of beat around the bush. They had more of the ball, to be honest. West Ham actually had more of the ball. And then obviously against Arsenal, the B team, we absolutely got schooled. And then now against Aston Villa was going toe-to-toe against us. In fact, probably not even toe-to-toe. They were probably a bit better than us in terms of their gameplay. And throughout this match, throughout all of these matches, Matisse, it felt like the only system Frank was sort of relying upon was just crossing and hoping that we were going to get a goal like the way we did against Aston Villa. I mean, where does it come a point where you as a fan start thinking that, well, this ain't it? Like, this can't be it. This has got to stop.
Yeah. Do you know what annoys me? Because with Ziyech missing, it's not like we didn't have another option. Now, he tried Kai Havertz out there, and I think, I keep saying, I don't think Kai is a one-dimensional player. He can only play one position. Like a lot of people seem to be going on the board now where he can only play 10. I think he can play out wide. I think he can play false 9. I think he can play 8. He did all those things at Leverkusen. The only difference is he hasn't adapted yet over here. So I think for him to try and play those positions is a little bit more difficult for him in the Premier League. In the Premier League, for instance, you don't get as much maybe space in behind the defense as you get in the Bundesliga. I know it happens in the Premier League. Of course, we've seen it exploited, but it doesn't happen every week. And I think you can see, especially out wide when you're attacking the fullback in the Bundesliga, there's a lot more space behind the fullback. There's a lot more room to run into. Whereas in the Premier League, you see Hudson-Odoi down the right channel. He's having to really cut back a lot because you're getting doubled up on and whatnot, and that just doesn't happen as often over there. So he's struggling, and I think if he was at top form and maybe in a season on in his Chelsea career, maybe he would be the replacement for Ziyech at points because he's left-footed and he's also got good delivery and he's got a passing range and all these things as well. And then I also think he's just underestimated Callum Hudson-Odoi's ability because I've seen Timo Werner play left wing for 10, I don't know how many games, not do anything really. Pulisic play out of his strongest position on the right wing where he's really dribbling infield a lot from the right wing. He's not going to cross. And he's not gonna bring that real width because he does like to come central. So you've jeopardized 2 players, if anything, and you've gained nothing because Werner's confidence shot to shit, and Pulisic's not really at his best either. Whereas when you put Hudson-Odoi on the right, I know a lot of people say he can play on the left, but Hudson-Odoi for me is very much similar to Ziyech because he's got the switch of play, which we've seen yesterday. He's very able crosser, great crosser of the ball as well, and he's also a great 1v1 player. He can attract players, drag them out wide and create space inside for players and create space. And I think when you've got a player like that and you underuse him, and for me, again, you see him get a goal against Rennes, then you leave him out the squad, but we had too many players available. You can make excuses there. But then, again, you just never really bring him into the fold. And of course, there's an injury in there as well that we have to take into consideration. But again, it doesn't make any sense to me how all of the youngsters can continue to get time, patience, game time, back-to-back performances. You're not playing well, no problem. Kiss, cuddle, make up, next game, here you go. Hudson-Odoi, mate, if you've clipped your fingernail, I'm afraid I'm going to just kick you out of the team. Like, this is literally, there's no patience with Hudson-Odoi. There's no patience with Hudson-Odoi like there is for every single other youngster. And it's funny because when you look at his game yesterday, he didn't get a goal or an assist. And if you're not watching the game, then you'll say he didn't play well. But the boys set up 2 very big opportunities, one for Chilwell at the end and another one for Pulisic. Making that crossfield ball so many times, switched over to the left at one point actually to double up with Pulisic to create an overload. So there was space on the right wing. And I think if Reece James was playing, we would have had even more space for his crosses. And was just in general a bright spark. And that's
tracking back as well, Matisse. Tracking back.
Yeah. The lazy Hudson-Odoi who doesn't work hard was tracking back. Who would have thought it?
Exactly. And I feel like in recent times as well, Matisse, I'm pretty sure you'd probably agree with this as well. Mason Mount, I saw some of the clips from last season. I just visited some matches post-lockdown last season, and Mason was playing a lot more through the middle, was trying to find Giroud a lot more, was trying to link up with Ross Barkley a lot more when Ross Barkley was sort of playing side by side with him. This season specifically, and specifically the last few matches that we've been doing so poorly, he gets the ball and he tries to find our fullbacks immediately. There is no focus on let's try and look up and see what the movements are happening. Is Giroud dropping deep? Can I lay it off to him and link up with him and then perhaps find Callum Hudson-Odoi out wide or Pulisic out wide? He gets the ball and he's just straight away he's going wide. And I feel like the opposition, it's too easy for them to surround in the wide areas and suffocate us. And as you said, you know, when players like Callum Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic, they've got the ability to take on players and create stuff. Do you sense that Frank, I don't know, like, has he lost a little bit of that charisma, that firepower, that belief that let's go out there and play some sexy football, as opposed to he just wants to, I don't know, somewhat play a conservative style, which I feel going around is more, I don't know, like I feel like that's more conservative because going through the middle is penetrating. Like you got to think about going through you actually got to use your head.
There's a lot of combination play, and I haven't seen too much of it, you know. And I think yesterday's goal, even though it was a cross from Chilwell, that's the first time I've actually seen a bit of build-up play centrally before it went out wide. Yes, I actually watched the goal and I was like, that's actually a nice goal. I haven't really said that in a while. A lot of the goals have come from set pieces, or they've come from crosses into Giroud or into Tammy as well. So, yeah, I think we are lacking a bit of imagination. There's a lack of creativity in the team. But again, this is very reminiscent of when Liverpool were at their best a couple of years ago. They really just spammed crosses, if we're being honest. But they got numbers into the box. That's the difference, you know. They really went out to Robertson and Trent. Chance creation went through them. Their midfield was all about runners, all about covering the fullbacks, covering the spaces. It wasn't a lot of creativity. You had your Caters, Chamberlains, Milners, Fabinhos, you know, Hendersons, you name it. There was no real creativity. And obviously they brought in Thiago this season, but even he's been quite injury prone. So the spamming crosses thing does work if you get numbers into the box. And I'm not surprised that, like I said, an inexperienced manager who hasn't really got a massive CV behind him with, you know, he's not Sarri or Conte or Mourinho with a decade, 2 decades behind him to have a complete style of play and an identity. I'm not surprised that he hasn't got a bundle of ideas to bring it into the match in terms of creativity. Because we're trying to go, if we're trying to penetrate the central areas, first of all, it would be nice to have some long shot midfielders in the team to actually just shoot from distance. Because we talk about breaking down low blocks a lot, and we talk about, you know, trying to penetrate and score the perfect goal. One thing we don't have is players that can shoot from range. You know,
long range shots.
I remember us when we was at our best, and you had Lampard, you had Ballack, you had Essien. How many times late on in games were we struggling? And they just hit it from 25 yards, bang, game over. Do you know what I mean? We don't have that. And Mason Mount is trying to get that. You can see there's a real emphasis on his game to shoot from distance. He's had a few pops, hit the post against Arsenal. Was it against Arsenal with the free kick? I believe so. And then had a shot. Yeah, he's having a few long shots that are going just wide, and he's getting there. So I can see progression in his game with that. Havertz is going to have to bring it as well, and so is Ziyech, because I've seen that on Twitter. I've seen the comps, but we haven't seen it in real life yet. So we're going to need more long-range shooters. But on top of that, again, it's just numbers into the box. Like I said, it's great to see Kante's beautiful bald head in there. I love him. I love him dearly. But that's not where he's going to get the goals. Kante actually has a decent goal scoring record in one season on the Sarri. He got some goals, but they weren't with his head, to my knowledge. They weren't. Do you know what I mean? This is why I was excited about the sign of Kai Havertz, because he's a player that, and again, he's taking his time to get used to the Prem, but he's a player that can drift into the box, and he's got the passing and he's got the skills and everything. He's actually quite tall, and there's a frame on him. And when he was playing false nine for Leverkusen, he was actually the man that was kind of there to hold up the play and do all that stuff. So I think there's potential with his heading ability. And again, I liken it to Ballack when he was at us. He got into the box and got a few headers. And I think if you can start putting players in the box, this will work. It will work. But at the moment, they don't have that. I mean, you've got Mount, Kante playing as your eights, Jorginho in the six, right? The other day. And you've got who up front? You've got Giroud. So really, you've only got Giroud in the box. And you don't have Reece James playing, so you've taken away a crossing ability there. And finally, just to add, what really annoyed me was that our two lineups there was no connection to them. So let me make this real easy point. You're gonna spam 34 crosses against Arsenal. Where's Giroud? You play Tammy instead. And then we're gonna play Aspilicueta yesterday, and we've got Tammy. It doesn't make any sense. That, in my opinion, I'm just simplifying it. Maybe it's more complicated than that. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, absolutely, man. And all of this, I want to dig deeper on this and talk about the whole Kante situation as well. Because you're right. Against Arsenal, you pump in all of those crosses, and you have the player that is his weakness is probably the heading ability in regards to Tammy Abraham, and you want to pump in all of those crosses. And then on top of that, also, Reece James all of a sudden now has a hamstring injury. He did not look right against Arsenal.
Yep.
I mean, and then yet he started. I mean, are we surprised the fact that he's got an injury?
No. And again, that is, if we're being honest, mismanagement. And everyone will say you loved the lineup when it went out against Arsenal. I didn't say I did. I definitely didn't, actually. I was actually, I think everyone just assumes that, they're all back now. We love it. No, if you actually just ask certain people, they'll say that they didn't like it. It was actually very rushed. And it was a bit like, whoa, how did they just both magically come back into the team against Arsenal? Yeah. That's kind of it feels a little bit rushed here. And Lord and behold, he's got a hamstring. And again, he's managed certain players quite well. You know, Kante hasn't picked up an injury yet, but then other times it's been like, what are you doing? It's kind of suicidal. And I'm actually quite surprised that Pulisic and Kante didn't get a knock last game from playing back-to-back. Yeah. But I guess we got lucky with that one.
I feel Matisse, he forcefully used Reece James and Chilwell against Arsenal because his game plan is crossing. So he wanted to have those players play because he did not want to have a different plan. His plan was to just pump the crosses, and he wasn't going to get that from Aspilicueta and Emerson. So he forced these two players, and you could clearly see, I'm sure you would have seen it, Reece James earlier this season, dynamic, we've all been saying he's the best right back in the Premier League at the moment. Yeah. That game, you could clearly see he was out of it. And I feel like Frank just said, mate, I need crosses. Just go out there and just cross. So, as you said, mismanagement and also another indication that Frank doesn't seem to have an alternative sort of structure or style of play when players could miss particular games. Let's talk about the Kante thing. You were talking about the Kante thing.
Yeah.
We obviously saw the lineup yesterday, and Jorginho was sitting deep, and Kante as an attacking eight. Matisse, make sense of all of this, because I feel like Kante is not an attacking eight. He's not going to give you goals up front. He's not going to be creative up front. Yes, defensively, you could probably get that sort of game from him, but then you might as well just use him as a defensive midfielder and just have an attacking eight. Do you know what I mean? Like, why have Jorginho? And the whole ideology didn't make sense. You want to have Jorginho in the base. But then Jorginho only had about, Noman was saying that Jorginho apparently had about 50 or 60 touches in the whole game.
Yeah.
Whereas last season, when Jorginho plays in that situation, that lone DM sort of plays, or register, whatever you call it, he used to have about 100 to 120 touches of the ball. Yeah. So you're going to play Jorginho, but you're not going to use him to his limits. But then you're also going to play Kante as an eight. Does this make sense to you, what I'm trying to say here?
I feel like... So, first of all, that Arsenal team was so weak that I felt like he was preparing for an Arteta low block. So then his method, in my head, what I'm trying to logically think is that he was trying to say, right, sorry, if it was Kante was playing this 8-year-old the last game, isn't it? Not Arsenal.
Kante was playing 8 against Aston Villa. He was playing lone DM.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't even have a reason for it then, because I thought it was. I was actually thinking, oh, maybe it was Arsenal. It's not Arsenal. It's actually Aston Villa. In a home game, in a game we have to win again. I don't know. If it was Arsenal, I would actually be able to make sense of it. Against Villa, not so much. I was actually quite surprised that Gilmour didn't play, because I thought Gilmour would at least get the run in, because look, he's more mobile, probably suits the team a little bit more. I was hoping that would happen, but that wasn't the case.
No, 100%, man. Like I honestly, I would have preferred Billy, but I just thought realistically, I think Frank might have used Kante as a lone DM, and then Kai Havertz, perhaps he's been in the bench, gets an opportunity against Aston Villa, on the right side of the midfield, and then you have Mason Mount, and that I just thought that with Kai Havertz being benched for the last couple of games, it would have been a good opportunity for him to come in and showcase from the get-go his passing range. And we needed that creativity in the midfield. We saw against Aston Villa.
He's been benched for 3 games. Like, it was 3 or 4 games in a row. Like, and again, when you've got 2 games in 3 days, you'd think you'd see him, But then you're seeing other players play twice in 48 hours or 50, in 3 days. So it's really, it's very confusing. And he took so long to drop Timo, but Kai can't get back into the team. It's all very confusing as to what's going on for me. I don't quite get it. And on Timo, I think he's the one that I'm worried about the most. Not because I don't know what he can do. I know what he can do. And we spoke about on Twitter, you want to see him up front in the lone forward. For me, I don't think he's going to be the perfect lone striker or the perfect winger. Probably will be better up front. But there's so many things in his game that still need to improve, like his link up, like his first touch. And obviously, his finishing has been quite poor. So I'm not too sure whether to throw him in when we need points. But I really hope he knows how he's going to use him, because at the moment I'm seeing a hybrid second striker who's better in probably a front 2. You can't play him out wide. Lone forward, you seem to want to have a bigger forward who can hold up play. That's not really Timo's game. I've never really seen Frank go with in recent times go with just an out-and-out runner up front. I think he does want a bit of hold-up play, and Werner's very similar to Vardy. So
exactly,
since Derby, he hasn't really just had an out-and-out runner. I think Tammy offers a lot more than we give him credit for. He does hold up the ball, not always successfully, but he has improved that side of his game. So we do build from him sometimes, and Drew, we definitely do. So Werner's the complete opposite, where he's just straight running behind. So we'd have to. I know it would force us to go central a lot more, because we'd have to have a lot more creativity to service him. But I don't know if the team's ready to do that, because I don't think we can just snap our fingers and say we're going to suddenly be able to service Timo Werner centrally with some new creativity that comes out of nowhere. I think it's going to take a few weeks on the training pitch to actually know how we're going to get the best out of him. So it's just confusing times.
No, I completely agree with what you said. You can't just snap a finger and have all of this happen. But Matisse, you got to start somewhere, right? You have to start. If you want to change, and you want to change the ideology, you got to break you got to get out of your comfort zone. I completely get what you mean, that Frank wants to play with someone up front who's got that physicality, who can hold up the ball. But that style of football does also have limitation. You look at some of the top footballing sides around the world, right? Your likes of Bayern Munich, or your likes of Barcelona, or your likes of Liverpool and Man City. They don't necessarily have a big, tall striker up front where they do hold up play and whatnot. And I know it's probably not a fair way to judge, because we are we're a while away from that. But you got to break it. Somewhere you've got to start, right? You've got to start, and you might as well start now. You've got the players. You might as well start now. And that way, at least the fans can say, Frank, I see what you're trying to do. I see what you're trying to do, and I'm going to give you time. Right now, what's happening is, Frank, I really don't see what you're trying to do, and I'm really worried to give you some time. So on that basis, I want to now talk about this particular notion, our 17-match unbeaten streak, right? Was that a bit of did that create a little bit of a false hope in our fan base, or even yourself? Like, I personally started to believe that we're title contenders, we're this, we're that. But when I look back now in those 17-match unbeaten games, there was probably one or two really, really good games. Probably that Sevilla game away 4-0. A few other games maybe against Rennes. But overall, I think it was overhyped a little bit too much to an extent to what we really think it really was. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I really
it was too good.
I don't beat ourselves up for it because it's fandom at the end of the day. And I think, you know, it's down to the team and the players and the manager not to get too hyped and too low, because they're the ones that have to control themselves at the end of the day. They're the ones that actually need to level themselves out and really analyze themselves. We as fans, if we see ourselves running high and we're winning game after game after game, of course we're going to get excited. It's Chelsea's, it's Frank Lampard's Chelsea, for God's sake. Of course you're going to get excited. You know, if you're not getting excited and you're just constantly worrying about, you know, the really long-term future and really getting really detailed with it 100% of the time and never really enjoying it, then I don't know. If you want to follow football like that, cool. But for me, sometimes I just like, I'm aware I'm getting lost in the moment, but I let myself do it, because that's what following football is all about. It's not about being, you know, it's not about being heavily tactical 100% of the time. I like to look into the tactics. I like to find out what the hell's going on when we're doing wrong. But when we're doing well, sometimes, unless we're having absolute stinker performances and we're really just winning on luck, if we're playing decent football, which we did in the Leeds game, I thought we played pretty well. You know, we outran them. So when you're having games like that, you're not really overthinking. You're trying to just enjoy, and I think that's a part of it as well. And I think potentially now everyone's maybe more negative than they have to be. You know, there's, you know, you have to look around. You know, there's caveats. There's other sides to it. I think Brian put up a really good thread on Twitter. If you look at all the other top teams in Europe, they're all struggling. So it's not like it's not like everybody else is doing great and they're getting through this freak season with no problems, and we're just the ones that are lagging behind. Everybody's struggling. You look in Spain, top teams, Real Madrid, Barca struggling. You look at Bayern Munich, not at the top. You look at Juventus, struggling, not even in the top 4. PSG, not at the top. Bayern Munich, I've mentioned them already. Even the Premier League, even with our shocking form, we're actually still not far away from the top 4, because everybody's just dropping points. Man City dropping points the other day. Liverpool drew at home to West Brom. So that's why I'm not Lampard out. That's why I've still got time. And some people will be like, oh, you're just afraid to say it. No, I'm not afraid to say it. No one's going to shoot me if I do. I'm fine. I will sleep at night whether I'm Lampard in or out. The reason why I haven't said it is, first, I've seen bad form at Chelsea before, and I know I'm angry about it, but I'm not just going to just start throwing around hashtags, because one, I don't do hashtags. I didn't do it with Sarri, so I'm not going to do it now. And second of all, I have probably maybe a higher tolerance level than some others. Everyone's tolerance level is different. So under Sarri, I never wanted him out. I was fine with him to continue actually into the next season. Yeah. Even though he wasn't doing everything perfectly the way I wanted it, I could see something. And Frank's not doing everything I want perfectly, but I can see something. And I'm not going to pretend like every single thing he's ever done is now negative. That would be wild from me. So I'm trying to, I've got patience, but he is on a little bit of a ticking bomb, because there are high standards. And I've always said in the last few weeks, you have to finish top 4, or it actually is a sackable offence, in my opinion, because you can't just drop out of the top 4 and finish below where you finished. And I think that's quite reasonable. And I think when people that are super way over the limit, when they go with Frank Lampard, they say, I'll get relegated for Frank. Well, then it's funny, because you have actually got lower standards for Frank than Frank has himself. Because if Frank got relegated with Chelsea, he'd sack himself. He'd probably resign.
He would not be able to show himself.
So if you think it's proper Chelsea, and it's proper Chelsea, you weren't here in the 80s, and he gets relegated to Championship, and you think just because you support him through it and you're happy to continue because you don't care about the financial state of the club, and you think that we can continue successfully and sustainably in the Championship, and you think that that's all proper Chelsea because you supported us in the 80s, well, Frank Lampard will tell you, actually, my standards are higher. Because Frank Lampard, at the start of last season, when he first came to the club, said, don't judge me as a player, judge me as a manager. He said, this season, I want to have the mentality to challenge for the title. So now, don't talk to me about, if we finish 10th, it's okay. It's not really okay, is it? Because it's not okay with Frank Lampard, so why should it be okay with me? Simple as that.
100%.
Simple.
Just on that, though, you did mention that I'm not Frank Lampard out. Here's my theory about the whole thing. Let's forget all this Frank Lampard in and Frank Lampard out, and let's just talk about what's actually going on, right?
Yeah.
And here's another picture I want to paint, because as I said, I feel like I'm an artist today. Southampton, Matisse, right? Southampton. I brought this up. Eunice, thanks for joining. And it just reminded me as soon as he came in, because I asked him sort of similar question as well. I want to get your feedback, because I need our fan base to go away from the in and out sort of conversation and actually think about what are you seeing. Forget about who's doing what you've just mentioned, which is relevant, but at the same time, we need to look at we need to see what's going on within our house, right?
Yeah.
So in order to see that, I just want to compare a few things. You look at teams like Aston Villa. Let's start with Aston Villa. Yeah. Where were they last season to where they are now? They're coming to Stamford Bridge with a swagger, with players like Grealish, with players like Watkins, with players like El Ghazi and Traore, and Dean Smith and JT. It's not like we're the only teams that bought a lot of players that need gelling, that need to come together. They brought a lot of players as well to ensure that their levels were higher this season. They've got 2 games in hand ahead of us.
Yeah.
And they're at the same points as us. So they could actually lead progress by a month, right?
Yeah.
Then you look at Southampton, where they were last season with the 9-0 defeat they had against Leicester. But since then, now look at them. I don't know if you saw the match against Arsenal, Matisse. They played Arsenal off their backside. They ripped them through the middle. They played so well with the likes of Theo Walcott, who's in his, twilight of his career. So what I'm trying to say to you is, Matisse, there needs to be a time where we need to say to ourselves, Frank, you've now played, you've been here for about 1.5 years. I need to see some more proper quality.
But do you know what's funny? If we're being honest, where does Frank Lampard, where does Arteta, where does even Ollie, where do these managers at these top clubs rank in the Premier League for managers? Because they're probably in the bottom half, if we're being honest. We're coming up, and that's no. You'd have to be an absolute psychopath to tell me otherwise. Like, you'd actually have to be so high on Frank Lampard to tell me that he's actually one of the top coaches in the league. He's not, and I think everybody knows that, and I think everybody knew that when he got here.
Just to add a few things. Sorry, I want to continue on with that. Alexis Kafkas came in and he said the difference between Ollie, Frank Lampard, and Arteta is just their squad. It's not about them. It's just their squad. That's the difference. None of them actually are superb in what they're doing, or they're inexperienced. It's just their squad. But carry on.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, again, I think when you go through the 3 of them, and I don't want to keep comparing them because that's overdone. It's the same as Saka versus freaking Greenwood at this point. But if you rank them, they're not high up, and we're coming up against inferior teams that are coached better because they have better managers. That's just the truth. So it's actually balancing out the league a lot, because the top teams now have a lot of inexperienced managers, and then the bottom teams actually have probably better coaches who have been in the game longer, but can coach their teams up to the level. So you've got a really tight table where Aston Villa probably got a tactically better manager, Southampton probably a tactically better manager, but they're level with us because we've got a better team, but they've got, do you know what I mean? It's balancing out. Yeah. So the whole league is really just becoming sandwiched, which is, it's great for the neutral, but for us, it doesn't make any sense. For me, he's a manager that he came in, we knew what we were getting when we got him. So instantly when we got linked with him, I personally said, I think it's too early. I think he's not in the prime of his management. So I think, even though, he's probably going to get us through the transfer ban quite well, and he's going to implement youth, his actual management knowledge and tactical knowledge and all of these things to get him through the tough times is going to be a little bit questionable, because he's very inexperienced. He's only had 1 year at Derby. I'm not expecting a lot. This is like a youngster coming into the first team and expecting 30 goals a season. And then on top of that, when you go with the coaching team that he's come with him, they're all very young and inexperienced at the top level. Jody Morris, Joe Edwards, great coaches, but at youth level, haven't done it at the top level. So for me, I was hoping maybe, does he bring in a Steve Holland with him, a Paul Clement, anyone who's worked under top managers in the assistant role? It's kind of backwards, because it's actually meant to be like a Pep and an Arteta, or experienced John Terry, whatever. Didn't do that. So again, you're going with a whole group of inexperienced people into the top level for the first time. I'm not personally surprised. I'm really not. And that's just really the situation of the matter. I'm not surprised. And I think when people make the Klopp comparisons, and even though I'm Lampard in, because I still want to give him time to improve, because I believe in his intelligence to get himself out of the situation, I don't like stupid excuses. I don't like we haven't got Ziyech, so we can't win football matches. I don't like Klopp got time. Klopp was at Mainz, excuse me if I'm butchering it, Mainz or whatever it is, second division in Germany, got them promoted, won the Bundesliga with Dortmund, got to a Champions League final, then went to Liverpool and got time. So the time that it did, if anything, the time that it took Klopp to get where he needs to get with Liverpool is probably going to take Lampard longer, because he's going to need more time, because he's learning more. Like Klopp probably wasn't learning on the job, because he probably knew what he wanted to implement. He's already built a team before, so he just needs to get all his pieces together and then he's ready. Lampard's still learning as he goes along, so it's probably going to take him longer. So these comparisons are just stupid. They don't make any sense. It's like comparing a teacher with a student. It doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to defend Lampard, defend him with points that you're seeing. Don't bring other managers and coaches into it. It's like saying give Timo Werner time because Drogba got time, and look how he turned out. Newsflash, they're not the same bloody player. if you was going to use that excuse for Morata, we would never have got rid of him. Use what you're seeing as examples of proof as to why they need time. Then the discussion is good. When you start dashing in caveats and dumb suggestions and start tweeting in Klopp out as a hashtag because you think it's funny, whatever banter you want to play with, cool. But if all you're doing is just creating more toxicity, you can't complain about toxicity and then tweet Klopp out when they drop points to West Brom and think that that's a comparison that can even be made, because it's not. So people like to dig themselves into their own hole, and that's really none of my business.
You know what? It's perfect how you sort of talked about that sense that Frank needs more time because of what, if we were to compare. And it's perfect. Sof over here with the comment, because I was actually thinking about that comment, and Sof has come up with that particular comment. Said, so 8 years then we got to wait. So
hey, baby, it's part of the process.
This is a legitimate question now, Matisse, is that if we have now fathomed and we've accepted the fact that Frank needs a longer time, are we ready as a fan base, Matisse, to wait, let's say, 5 years to win a league? Are we ready? Because that's the facts, right, Matisse? You know it. That's the facts. Because if you
have you seen the meltdown on Twitter after a defeat to Arsenal? Yo, we ain't ready for that. That's why when people keep saying, this is so funny, this whole ideology of everyone bought into the same idea, right? The ideology when this started is that you knew what you were getting. You signed up for this. I'm sorry, a lot of us didn't. I actually didn't sign up for this. I'm not going to lie to you.
Me neither.
I'm still backing him, and I actually was one of the ones that didn't sign up for this, because when we was linked with him, I immediately said, yo, I think his legacy might get tarnished. I think our fan base might absolutely slate him. You can go back and see my tweets. By the way, what I like to do, if you're confused, is when a person joins, I back them. So Ziyech, Lampard, anyone, it doesn't matter. So you might be confused as to what's he talking about? He backs Lampard. Yes, I back them when they come in. I drop everything that I've said before and I back them, because there's no point talking about it anymore because they're here now. But before he joined, check my tweets. I said his legacy could get tarnished. I remember arguing with Alex about this. So Alex, where you at, my brother? I remember arguing about this because I remember saying his legendary status may get tarnished. The fan base are going to drag him. And everyone was like, no, it's going to be a lovely atmosphere, vibes and happiness, rainbows. And I said to myself, okay, honeymoon period maybe, but when the marriage really starts to sink in and get real gritty, are we really going to still hold it? And no is the answer. And people will say it's because we don't have the fans. Okay, well, if it gets worse, don't think that there aren't going to be sections of the supporters in the ground that are going to be able to hold themselves back. Because I've seen supporters in that ground, and it's not all happy roses like everybody likes to make it out to be. They've definitely got more tolerance because it's Lampard. But when you maybe, are dangling in 12th, we'll see. Then we'll see what the reaction's like. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they'll love him until we get relegated in the ground. I don't know. But that's not a good thing, by the way. So don't go saying that like, oh, great, the atmosphere in the ground would be great if we're losing 6-0 at home to Shrewsbury. That's not good news, by the way. That doesn't mean, that's not anything to be trumping your horn about. So again, I wasn't actually signing up for this, but now I'm here. I may as well get used to it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And again, the reason why, even though I'm saying it could potentially take longer than Klopp, the reason why that hasn't driven me overboard yet is because we're in such a freak season, and I'm still clinging on to the fact that, hey, I'm seeing everybody else capitulating around us. Maybe if we can get into the top 4 and make sure that we solidify. I still want a trophy, by the way. The FA Cup for me needs to be maintained. That's something that I really wanted this season, was a trophy. In a normal season, how we look, because there are good stats in his favour, like the amount of chances we create. Our defence improving. So it's not all doom and gloom. You know, we have improved in aspects. And and like I said, this is not just any legend that I'm going to apply this logic to. This is, for me, it's still a very intelligent man. I've seen the way he swindles the media. He's not stupid. So, and also I say that knowing that there's better options out there, by the way. And I think when we hired him, there were better options out there. So, for me, right now, he's going to take, one thing I do know is he's going to take this playing squad into another level for the next person. I don't know when the next person's coming, but we've drastically improved on the playing squad. So even if we're milking out the pool power aspect, we're still going to be better off when he hands over the reins. But right now, another big factor. I don't sack someone if I don't have a replacement. I wouldn't do it, because it just doesn't make any sense to me unless they're doing absolutely diabolical. And like I said, we're not that far off of the top where we should be. Do you know what I mean? We're still in touching distance. We're just playing dreadfully. Luckily, everybody else is dropping points. I think there was a weekend where nobody in none of the top clubs even won. So again, it's the second season in a row where we're not taking advantage, and we're kind of relying on other results to get ourselves there again. But hey, we move. But if the only manager, because I've seen everybody parading around different managers and getting excited and, you know, wanking off to different managers with long names and whatnot. And it's great. I love it. I love the
long names, Matisse. The long names.
It's fun. It's fun. I can't spell half of their names, and I haven't watched all their games either. So I'm not going to even pretend to start giving my opinion on each coach, because, to be honest, the only coach that I could say 100% that I would have taken that fits ticks everything on the list, because Pochettino, he said it for me, because he's done it in this league twice with Tottenham and Southampton. He's shown that player recruitment wise, he knows what he's doing. He gets a Van Dijk, Lallana, players like Spurs, turns Kane, turns Ali, Ericsson. Do you know what I mean? So he's shown that he can develop youth, which is what we have. He's shown that he can evaluate the market. He's shown that he can handle the Premier League, and he's shown that he can take 2 clubs from relegation to like top 8 to the point where they're getting robbed by Liverpool, and Tottenham to a Champions League final. So he's shown me that he can do everything that I would need from a Chelsea manager. That's the only guy that I have that I 100%, because I've seen Southampton and Tottenham games where I'm like, yeah, cool. You want to bring him in? Bring him in. I'm 100% on board. Plays good football, but he's also got the versatility. I remember at halftime against Juventus, he changed the whole damn game. So he's got a bit of everything for me. That's a person with, even though he doesn't have the trophies, just like footballers, it's not all about the goals and assists. Doesn't have the trophies, but Sarri didn't have the trophies. He got one. Exactly. Got it up here. But I can't say the same for Tuchel and all these other guys. I know they've won trophies, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I watch every PSG game. I don't. I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watch every Leipzig game. I don't. So why am I going to start band-aiding myself around for other managers and strip teasing for other managers when really I don't watch them week in, week out to start saying, oh yeah, he's going to be able to turn everything around and everything's going to be okay. I can't say that. So because I can't say that, I'm just going to sit here and wait. I'm just going to wait.
Absolutely, man. Here's the final point before we wrap things up, Matisse. There's a small, talk about just an individual, just an insignificant individual, I'd say, Roman Abramovich. There's that one man who's invested over, around £250 million, £250 million this season to give Frank what he wants. Pretty much Frank selected these players. Most of these players are his players. We've been talking about time and Frank, as we've both said, that he ain't winning the league this season, that's for sure. He's probably not winning it next season either. He's developing. He's in a development stage where he still needs to understand I think
with the little horse. We're not even the little horse.
Yeah, with the
It's
little
to cuddle and to feed and to nurture. We ain't even a little horse yet. We ain't even born.
We're not even born yet. And this is the thing, like Frankie's a smart guy, as you said. He's definitely a smart guy. In the press conference, he seems very, very smart and well-spoken. He knows what he's talking about. My issue is in-game, when you're in the game, where you're
Well,
in
I have
the
to say, even just to caveat that, recently the press conferences have been a joke. So I don't know what you're talking about there. I'm not going to lie. The recent press conferences have been so, like, for me, that's been something, that and there was something else. His in-game management, of course, you're going to get onto, but the press conferences recently have been a little bit shaky from him. Well, actually, very shaky.
He pulled Werner under the bus last press conference again, off the back of that Arsenal game. Then he also, in this one where he said he got the reaction. You know what? I had a funny conversation with Vince. I was telling you this morning, right? Even though the video quality, sorry about that, guys, whoever's watched that, the video quality was a little bit bad, but he actually had some interesting points to make. I said to Vince, that Vince, you know, what was your thoughts about the lineup and how we weren't creative and this and that? And you know how Vince is, like he's a straight shooter, but he's got that subtle sort of
winky face about him.
Yeah. That subtle winky face. So he goes to me, Miz, of course, in the post-match, Frank's going to say he got the reaction, but he did. I go, what do you mean? He goes, he put out the team and he got exactly what that team was capable of. So he's happy. So I'm like, I see what you did, my man. I see what you did. He goes, now you understand. He put out a team that's not creative, so don't expect creative football. He's got attacking eights as Kante. You know, he's got players. He's asking everyone to cross the ball, and he's got Giroud up front. We can't be expecting, fancy football from that particular lineup. So anyway, getting back to the point, what I was trying to say is that, in combination with all of this, with Frank, his in-game management and everything, like he's got a lot of development to happen. And we've already mentioned that perhaps he's not ready to win a league, probably not in 3 years. On top of that, Matisse, we've just been talking about Werner and Kai in a thread in football Twitter. Yeah. Soon these players had big reputation when they came to our club. These were big players, Matisse. Let's not be around ourselves. Let's not say all of a sudden I see so many people in football Twitter right now saying, oh, Werner's crap. He's not a good player. Oh, Kai Havertz is rubbish. He's not good. No, don't fool around yourself. You, as Matisse said, you all wanked off when you saw these players signing for us. You all did. I did. 100%. Yeah, exactly.
We got the best depth in the league, everyone said.
Exactly.
Best squad in the world. And we're only teams betting us on Bayern Munich and Liverpool.
Yeah. Where are them boys now? So now, I guess the question what I want to ask is, Matisse, if these players start feeling the heat with all of this situation that's going on, they're getting benched a lot, they're getting the heat from social media, they're getting the heat from Frank in the media as well now. On top of Roman also spending all of that money, Matisse, he's going to start thinking, oh, you're going to bench my boys, Werner and Kai. I just spent 50 million pounds. Yeah, bench him. I'm not really sure about you now, Frank. So your thoughts around that?
Right now, for me, Frank needs to prioritize points over brownie points. And what I mean by that is that we need points on the table. And then if you want to start flirting with Roman and talking about summer signings, you can do that later. And again, the players that he's brought in will be here after him. And that's the point I want to get across to people, is that he has to get the best out of these players because he signed them. Every signing that you make, that's part of the judgment at the end of the season. Did you waste my money? If I'm the owner of a company and I give you 50 million as a manager to go out there and set up a store in a location, and then at the end of the year, that store doesn't even break even. Yeah. I'm looking at you like, are you stupid? What the hell have you just done with my money?
Mad?
I always try and give real life situations because I feel like when I do that, people understand, oh, I wouldn't allow that to happen. Exactly. Oh, right. Do you know what I mean? And that's what
makes sense now.
Yeah, it makes sense now. That's what I have to do for me to get across. Because I feel like if I don't do that, then some people just think I'm being harsh. No, it's just reality. And I think Frank knows that, and that's why he shoehorned Werner into the left wing so often, and he shoehorned Kai at right wing earlier than maybe his Chelsea career can handle. But at the same time, he like I said, he's going to be here. They're going to be here after him. But at the same time, he needs to prioritize getting points, and he can't. You can only blame them so much publicly as you're doing. And for me, I haven't enjoyed the public blaming but not taking any personal responsibility. I haven't liked the way that he's particularly spoken about Hudson-Odoi, or for me, being harsh with Hudson-Odoi in the terms of, right, first of all, you're not tracking back enough. Now, when you're tracking back enough, you're not getting enough end product. But while you're not getting enough end product, I'm also not giving you enough game time on merit, because I'm starting Timo Werner, who signed in the summer, who's dropping 3 out of 4s, 3 out of 10s every week, but I'm still starting him because I got to please Daddy Roman. It's politics. It's not all merit. And that's what I want to really get across here with this point, is that everybody keeps talking about merit. You train, you play. You train, you play. Bullshit. There is politics involved. There always is. It's a big, massive, multi-billion-pound corporation sitting behind us.
Sometimes it's even in the contract, Matisse. Sometimes it's even in the contract.
Yeah, we've spoken about this potentially with William. That was it in the contract? You had to play a certain amount of games. Sometimes in the contract, if you play a certain amount of games, you actually get paid a bonus. Sometimes then we lessen the games. You calm down a bit. These things happen. You know, little sneaky little pieces of things happen behind closed door that we don't know about that happen. These things are real. There's a little bit of corruption in football that we don't speak about, but we don't know about it all. You know, there's Jose Mourinho with his agent, but who also owns another club, and these things happen. Do you know what I mean? So don't, agent fees and whatnot, maybe getting passed to a manager if you sign him. I'm not trying to say too much.
It happens.
It's not all rainbows and sunshine out here. And my point is that Hudson-Odoi slapped down a 5-year commitment. Suddenly he can't get in the team on a regular basis. He needs to keep working on things. How about we just use Hudson-Odoi for what he is right now, at a 19-year-old who can do a lot of things for us? How about that? But no, Timo Werner can drop stinkers and keep playing, because we need to prove that we know what we're doing. Tammy hasn't signed a new contract, so of course he must play as well. These are all factors that play a part. If you think it's just down to what happens in training, I don't know what to say to you, because Giroud is an ultimate professional and he's trained as hard as his life can depend on it, but he's been frozen out many times. So my point is that there's a lot going on. And I think if we just simplify things sometimes, we might get a little bit further. So you look at average positions for Werner. He's a lot deeper than he was at Leipzig.
Yeah.
But play him forward in a front two, or play him up front like you guys are suggesting, or don't play him. Make things easier for yourself, Frank. If you got Pulisic, evidence of last season after lockdown on form, Hazard type influence, play him left wing. Don't make it complicated. Don't do extra stuff, It's like being in a kitchen and throwing in new spices and ingredients when you've already made a perfect dish at other points. Just keep going with the same dish until people get bored of it. I'm not getting bored of seeing Pulisic rip it up on the left wing. I'm not getting bored of seeing wingers play on the wing. If you want to play Werner, then you're going to have to, for me, think of a secondary formation with 2 up front, because that's where he thrived at Leipzig, playing off another striker. And even if you're playing him out wide, you have to play him on the last. It can't be a normal winger. The team has to be a bit lopsided, and you have to play him on the shoulder. Aubameyang plays left wing for Arsenal, got loads of goals, got challenging for Golden Boot, so it can be done. Vardy's played up front for Leicester, different team, different expectations.
Matisse, you there? I think we might have lost Matisse. Let me see if we can get him back. Let's hold on, guys. Hopefully we get Matisse back. I just WhatsApped him. Hopefully he comes back soon. This the thing sometimes, isn't it? With live stream and internet connection. Guys, meanwhile, thank you so much to each and every one of you guys that have come in and been listening to this. Thank you so much for taking that time out and watching this. Please leave some questions if you need to. I'll try and go back and try and answer as many as I can in the comment section. And also, please, if you're here, please smash that like button. Helps out the channel a lot. And if you're here for the first time, subscribe and smash that bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Hopefully we get Matisse back, guys, very, very soon. Still not there. There you go, my man. You're back.
God damn, bro. Do you know what it is, yeah? Sorry, Pete.
We lost your voice.
I must say, the countryside is not for me. Really, is not. Not gonna lie. I miss London. I miss strong connections. Sorry, people.
No, that's all right. But you were into it, man. You were talking something.
Oh no, I can't even hear you now. What is going on? Can't even hear you. 1 second.
You want to come back in and get back?
Yeah, let me.
My bro, you hear me?
Do you know what it is, yeah? I was making a great point, and then Frank Lampard just comes in, drags me off screen. And I'm like, this is the type of shit I'm talking about. Just slow it down, Frank. I wasn't. So yeah, we're back, man. The countryside's a bitch.
No, of course, man. You were getting into some deep convo, man.
That's why you cut me off, bro. It's the club. You see what I'm talking about? It's a bit fishy how when I'm getting into a good point, suddenly, the club just snapped the lights off of us. Hey, you know what I mean?
I've said, pull the plug out there. Pull the plug on this guy. He's talking too much truth. But yeah, I think you were talking about Callum Hudson-Odoi and how he can do his stuff. Like, why not play people that can actually play the positions and do the stuff they need to do, as opposed to playing Werner and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think he's a creative winger, and I tweeted this out and then I kept scrolling. I seen Chelsea out, shout out to them, make this brilliant thread on it. And I need to go back and engage with that. And it feels like we're trying to turn him into Willian at one point, where you've got to do all the defensive work. And I understand that's important, but sometimes you need to make sure you save your energy for the attacking so he can actually be productive in the final third as well. There's a balance to it. And then the next thing, we're trying to turn him into Mohamed Salah or Mane, where you got to be in the box and score goals. And again, I get that's important, but there's things that he can bring to this team now. Ziyech, is a very creative winger as well. And I think, I'm not saying Hudson-Odoi is on that level, but I don't think he has to be bursting into the box. I think we've got other players that can do that. I think Kai can do that. I think Pulisic loves to do that. He did that at the end of last season. I think Callum Hudson-Odoi is quite creative, and I think we don't utilize him like we could. I mean, there is a reason why Bayern Munich were chasing him, and like I said, really just wrap up the whole point. I feel like there's a lot going on. There's a lot at play here. We look at Tomori and what's going on there. There's so much going on, and I would love an Amazon documentary on Chelsea this season, because then
they would not show this stuff. They would not show this.
I would love it. They wouldn't, by the way. This is a very secretive club. You can't even film outside this club stadium. If you step over a certain part of the pavement, you get locked down. So they wouldn't show this. Because we try so many times to film outside the ground to get the backdrop and whatnot, but it's pointless because buses are going past and you can't get you can't get into the stadium in front of the ground to film, because they have that area locked off because it's like privately owned or whatever. So they have security there. And they're just that type. They're just super secretive. Like, again, transfer business. They don't like a lot of things getting out, even though Declan Rice is the most baitest transfer I've ever seen in my life. So the club are very secretive.
And secret that one.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, we want Declan Rice. Well, no shit, bro. It's kind of obvious.
The thing I want to say about Callum Hudson-Odoi is, Matisse, you're 100% spot on, and I feel like Frankie's so harsh on him as well in the media. Like, he actually comes out and says he's got to be like Sterling. He's got to emulate what Sterling's doing. He's got to emulate what Salah's doing. Or what about emulate? What about, let's say, Mount needs to emulate what KTB is doing, or Mount needs to emulate what whoever else or LOR is doing. I didn't say that. I didn't say
But
Mount
the thing
enough.
is, they can in the future. But why we can't? What are we going to expect that now? Of course, we're not going to expect Callum Hudson-Odoi to be pumping out freaking Mane numbers at his age. When Salah was at Chelsea, I think he was like 21, 22. He kicked it out for
21,
a throw-in.
21.
Yeah, he kicked it out for a throw-in against Shrewsbury.
Bro, he could not shoot back then. I remember he could not shoot back then. Like he can shoot now. He could not shoot back then.
And the thing is, our fans get lost in this, and they actually start thinking, oh yeah, Callum Hudson-Odoi, he should be like Salah. Yeah, and until he's like Salah, I don't rate him. Literally, if you saw these players, you saw these players playing at the age that you're comparing Hudson-Odoi at, you wouldn't see these numbers and you wouldn't see them pumping out these levels. So there is a player development thing going on here where it takes a few years to get to that point. Also takes game time. You're comparing Pulisic with Hudson-Odoi. People love to do it. How much game time did Pulisic get at Dortmund before he came to Chelsea? A whole heap.
A ton.
Hudson-Odoi, for me, I can still never pin. People keep saying he's inconsistent. He's not this, he's not that. I can't pinpoint. I can do it with every other youngster, by the way. Can't pinpoint a moment for Hudson-Odoi where he's had a string of 5 starts. I've seen Mason Mount get his 5 starts. I've seen Abraham get his 5 starts. James get his 5 start. No 5 starts for Hudson-Odoi. I haven't seen it. So how are we expecting confidence? How are we expecting confidence? How are we expecting consistency from a confidence-based position, from a confidence-based winger who needs to be confident to take your 1v1s and to be daring and be creative? Why are we expecting all these things when you're not giving him the time of day? Why?
100%.
I have to
100%.
ask these questions because
100%.
how do you score a goal against Rennes, get dropped from the squad against Spurs, and then everybody's like, well, yeah, he just didn't do it for me. Just didn't do it. What, you got your Salah M product, didn't you? Or did he not get back in time, no?
Bro, that was some finish, bro. That was some finish against Rennes. That was
a great finish. It was a great finish, but he wasn't rewarded for that. But Timo Werner, and again, I don't have an agenda against Timo Werner. I just want fairness. He's dropping stinkers. He's a striker missing those chances. He's missing open goals. He's stabbing it onto the crossbar from the goal line, and we ain't got nothing to say about it because he's Timo Werner. Timo Werner's 24 years old, and Hudson-Odoi is 19. Again, I'm not trying to play this game of who. I don't care. I want all these players to do well. I want Timo Werner to do well. I don't give a shit. But what I'm trying to say is, it ain't fair. It ain't even. It's not on merit, and it's as simple as that. It's not on merit. And until we get to that point, this is the second time now where Hudson-Odoi has been playing second fiddle to someone who's not playing in their rightful position. First it was Mason Mount, now it's Timo Werner. And until people and like I said, if you've got a reason as to why that's happening and it makes sense to you, feel free, tell me. I will happily be wrong. I'm not saying what I'm saying is factual. I'm just giving my opinion of that. I can't make sense of it. So I'm not going to try and make excuses for it or try and like figure out why it's happening because I honestly don't know. I can't tell you why a winger isn't playing out wide. I cannot tell you why. You can tell me that Mason Mount's doing the defensive stuff, but Mason Mount isn't pumping in 10, 15 goals from wide like Salah out wide. He's not doing it. But we ain't got no complaints. Timo Werner is playing out wide for Hudson-Odoi. He ain't pumping out the goals. We ain't got no problem with it. But when Hudson-Odoi's out wide, he ain't pumping in the goals. It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Tell me why. He's the youngest out of freedom. Hey,
there's something much, much deeper, which is probably not within our pay grade. So, there's something much deeper that's happening here.
If someone wants to hire me, I'll do an investigation. Give me access.
What I want to end this show with, Matisse, is we've talked about a whole heap of things that are concerning about the whole situation that's happening now. The way I want to end this, Matisse, is Frank sort of feeling the pressure of last season? It was easy. We gave him easy. All the fans kind of said that we're not judging you this season because transfer ban, you're doing the youth. You've done well, Frank. You actually did well. You got us to top 4. Good on you. And it's great. This season, money comes in. Superstars, megastars, players come in. Callum Hudson-Odoi, the youth players, they want to, get some. They deserve some time. Tomori, players like that. Do you feel that this period? I know a lot of people will say, but this is just a December period. This happens to us all the time. It's nothing to do with Frank. But do you sometimes say to yourself, perhaps the pressure is now piling on Frank a bit too much, to a sense that maybe we're starting to see that this job may be a bit too much for him? Do you feel that way or not really?
Well, it's good. This has been a really good stream tip because we've given good points for him in his favor. We've given points not so much in his favor. And now, in terms of this question, it just comes down to he like I said, he's got expectations for himself. And sometimes when the fans make excuses for him, they forget that. They forget that he in himself has high expectations. Yeah. You're not talking about a man who stands for nothing. You're not talking about a man who's scapegoated through his career on low expectations. If he doesn't meet his own personal expectations in his head as Chelsea manager, he's not going to be happy with it. And like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he stepped down himself if he didn't get in the top four.
Do you reckon that would be, yeah?
It's a difficult one. He loves this club, right? Okay.
Right.
He does. That's what everyone says, and he does. Yeah. Why would you finish 8th and continue on? Why? For
because
real,
he could say to himself that I want to bring this team up. I can't let this team go down like this.
Well, look, at some point reality has to hit, right? So you have to perform to the level that is required in any job. You have bare minimum expectations you have to meet. And for me, I don't know if he's feeling the pressure, but like I said with those press conferences, and by the way, I've still got time for him. But like I said with those press conferences, I'm not going to be making up stupid excuses as to why I want to keep him. Like I'm seeing those dumb excuses that we mentioned earlier, the Klopps, no Ziyech. I'm not going to make any dumb excuses. I've given my reasons. I think they're a bit better than those. And obviously time will tell if they're good reasons or not, because we'll see what happens. Yeah. But with the press conferences, I'm seeing a lot of shots at the players. I'm not seeing any accountability with yourself. You are taking a little bit now in the last couple of days, but still it's a bit ropey. I'm seeing you go from saying we're challenging to now this team can't challenge. Even though for me, this team has all the ingredients to challenge. The only thing it's actually missing is probably... the only thing this team probably missing to challenge is an experienced coaching back staff and experienced probably players.
It's got the squad. It's got the squad. Let's not make any mistakes about it. It's got the squad.
Yeah. It's got the squad to challenge, but it probably doesn't have the backroom staff experience to challenge. And also then on top of that, it's made 7 new signings and they haven't all adapted yet, which is fine. So that's another thing. So those are probably the 2 elements where you can say where we're weak at the moment. But from the way that he's going on in the press conferences, I feel like, and again, I said this and people got onto me because I feel like it's negative. For me, this is just an observation. It feels like he knows there's pressure on him. And I feel like he's not stupid. He knows what club he's at. And I'm not saying we're just going to sack him because we are apparently trying to be more stable, but he knows where he is. He knows his own personal expectation. And I can kid you not, he's probably falling below his own personal expectation, which is probably... So the targets that he set in his head, this is probably below that, which means he's going to feel the pressure within himself. He's going to put pressure on himself, as he did as a player, to hit 20 goals a season. You know, people keep bringing this shit up. He hit 20 goals a season. He's a legend. He's done this for the club. You know why he was able to do that? Because he put pressure on himself. He's not going to sit as a manager, put his feet up and say, fuck this. Sorry for swearing. Yeah, I'm just going to finish wherever I want. Whatever. It is what it is, lads. Defend me. No, make every excuse in the world, Twitter. Defend me. I'll finish wherever. It's fine. Up the Chelsea. He's not going to do that because he's got expectations, because he's a man who wants to win. He wants to win. So when I'm saying I want top 4 and a minimum of a cup, he's probably saying you're undermining me. I want top 3. And what I struggle with people that are, like I said, I'm in. I wanted to give him time. But I'm looking at other people who are Lampard in, and I'm saying, what kind of stupidness is this? You're giving dumb excuses. You're saying malarkey. You're saying, oh, we can do this and that, and it's fine, and everything will be. We can finish in this position. I'm still going to be fine with it. You, as I said at the start of the stream, if anybody's just joined, you have got less expectations for him than he does this season. Because when he looks at you saying that's fine, he'll tell you that's not fine. So get up to his own standards and judge him by his own standards that he set himself. when he came to the club. He said, don't judge me as a player, judge me as a manager. I want to be judged as for what I do at this club. I want to challenge for this title this season. That is what he said. When you say something, you mean it. I don't come into a new job and say, oh, I'm going to do this for you, boss. I'm going to do that for you, boss. And then when I under-deliver, I start looking at my co-workers and be like, back me up here. Because even though I said I was going to do this, delete. I can't do it. Come on, man. Use your brains. Do you know what I mean? Some of this stuff is just basic common shit that happens in real life. If I go into a new job and I say I'm going to do something and I can't do it, I'm under pressure. And that's fine. So therefore, people are going to criticize. And when I criticize, don't tell me, oh, I'm being negative. I'm just calling it as it is, bro. Exactly. I'm sorry. But we're playing like shit. All right. There's players that are not getting a fair chance. The press conferences are looking dodgy, and we're not where we're meant to be. Of course, I'm not happy. What do you want me to do? Whip out a beer and start dancing again? It's not going to happen.
Yes, Matisse, that's exactly what
This is not a circus. I don't perform when there's no music. It's dead. The atmosphere is dead. He's sweating. I'm sweating. Nobody's enjoying this. Nobody's enjoying saying, oh, let's get the legend out. Oh, bloody hate that guy. Yeah. You know that guy, that the reason probably why a lot of us started supporting the club. Some of us have got his shirts. Oh, we hate, get him out. Get him out. No one wants to do that. I swear to you. Because I know some of these people that are Lampard out. And you think they're toxic and you think they're bastards. I'm telling you, they're not. They're not. Both sides, and that's what people don't do on these platforms. I did it when I was a small account. I could see where big accounts were coming from when they said it's not easy. And I understand now because I've got an account and it's not easy. You need to learn, people, to see things from both sides, and that's how you can have a discussion.
The other side of the coin.
You don't have to agree with them, but understand them. And when people are saying Lampard, they don't believe in him and they don't think he can do it, just try and see what they're talking about. Don't say, oh, they're not real fans. Or they don't know what it was like in the 80s. We're not in the 80s. It's like asking me if I got shot. Or in World War III, in World War II, you would have got shot. What are you complaining about? I'm not in World War II. I'm in now. I'm in 2020. What's going on?
Absolutely.
And that is what is so frustrating right now. To be someone that has got patience for Lampard, to watch people make such silly excuses and make such silly comparisons with managers that have done way more in the game, like Klopp. Why? Think of something ridiculous. Better. Don't be so defensive. Don't be so emotional. Like, I know it is an emotional sport, but don't be so silly about it. Have the debate, and really, maybe if you was great at the convincing, then you'd be able to convince someone to be Lampard in. But don't start calling people fake fans and they can't do this and they can't do that. Just settle the fuck down. I'm sorry for swearing. If you don't get monetized for this stream, I'm sorry. But I can't take YouTube. I belong on Twitter making videos because I swear to God, I can't deal with all these rules that YouTube make for me. I'm sorry. I really want to put out a video on YouTube as a review where I just drink and play music, but I'll get cancelled. The copyright strike will come. These people need to understand that when we're trying to talk about these issues, the last thing you want to do is start telling people they can't think like that. They can't do this. They can't do that. Because we don't all watch football the same way. We don't all judge football the same way. We don't all start supporting clubs from the same era. We're different ages. We come from different backgrounds. We have different breaking points, different expectations. Get it into your head. And that's from someone who's got patience. That's all I've got to say, man. And I don't even know if that answered your question.
I think it's somewhat, in roundabout, it did answer the question. The thing that I really want to take out of that, and this is a message for everyone that's tuned in and down the track who is going to watch, is what Matisse said, and this is exactly what this channel stands for. You don't need to accept someone's ideology. You don't need to accept someone's viewpoint. Understand what they're trying to say. And this is the reason why this is called the other side of the coin, where you may have a particular opinion, but don't be blinkers on about it. Have yourself open and try and understand why people are Lampard out or why people are Lampard in, or whatever the case is. Get an understanding of both the scenarios and then make a judgment, as opposed to, Matisse, honestly, I'll kid you not, man. Over the last probably since the Arsenal loss, now, I've been getting a lot of hate. I've been getting a lot of hate on football Twitter. But I'm too experienced for football Twitter right now, because it used to bother me ages ago. It doesn't bother me anymore. But what I do want to say out to my followers and people that that feel like, you know, when I tweet out now that, I don't think Frank is capable of winning a Premier League at this point, or even next year, or even in the next 2 to 3 years. I think maybe if he gets a lot more experience, probably in the 5 to 6 years time, maybe he may be ready. I get a lot of heat from people coming, you're not proper Chels, you're not this, you're not that,
Yeah,
you don't understand anything. And I feel like saying to them, mate, I don't think you understand anything.
Do you know what it is? Yeah, is my bro. This is such a complex situation. I could honestly go on for another hour. People have this in their brain, like I said, where you signed up for this. Guess what? Newsflash. If you have a balanced TL, not everybody wanted Lampard in the first place. I promise you. I know he's a legend and it was all fairy tales and rainbows and it was beautiful when it happened. It was very romantic. Kiss foreheads and cuddles everywhere. Not everybody wanted him. And I can bet you a lot of the people that are happy now and telling others, I don't want to do this, but you didn't want Sarri when he came and you wanted him sacked. And guess what? That means that there are two different ideologies right now and two different game plans clashing. And I don't want to see double standards and I don't want to see people telling them they're not proper supporters when, and I'm not going to do this very often, we finished third and won a trophy and you, man, were booing players, booing managers.
Wanted him now.
But yeah, you're ready to back out the banners in grounds and you're ready to say, this isn't good enough. You're not proper Chelsea. Sorry. Well, guess what? That's ungrateful because in the 80s, that would never have happened. You don't win a trophy, come third in the 80s, and there's a big palaver about it. So hold your energy and remember that. Try and remember that when you step to others. And if you go about it that way and say, well, listen, I'm not going to lie. In the past, I was a little bit impatient. I couldn't be asked to carry on. But now I've got a situation that I like, and now everybody else needs to be patient. It doesn't work like that because not everybody cares about what you want. Everybody wants different things here. But one thing everybody wants is success. But people have different ways of going about the same success. So you just have to understand that the way that you want success is not the same way everybody else wants success. Not everybody cares about having a legend at the club to win a trophy. Not everybody cares. They just want to win the trophies.
Just want to win trophies. Yeah.
And some of us, and some other people want a legend, and they would prefer the legend in charge. And even if they have to, suffer a little bit more, they'll take it. Everybody's got different ways of going about it. But you have to understand, if you've got a hint of double standards and hypocrisy in the past, then turning up now with this BS is not going to work out for you. And also, a lot of people, and I say this because a lot of my mate Con, shout out to him, has been getting a lot of stick lately. I know.
Yeah. Con's been copping a lot, man.
And I know people are going to be like, listen, it's just flip-flops in this, that, and the other. Again, put yourself in his shoes. If you had in your brain an underlying thought that you didn't really want Lampard, you didn't really want him too much, but you're going to back him out because he's here. And then what? Because funnily enough, I'm not going to give him props because we're not chatting right now, but people are
your voice is breaking up, Matisse.
Am I breaking up?
Come in, come out, because I want to listen to this. Come in, come out. He'll come in, guys, very soon. Just hang tight. Bro. Yeah. Matisse, can you hear me?
Is that right?
It's crackling. That's the thing. It's crackling. The voice is crackling.
Yeah. I'm not so Maybe it's just because I've gone on for 2. I don't know. The Wi-Fi is not playing up very well. Is it still, you can't hear me that one? No?
Yeah, I can hear you, but it's just crazy. But it's gone weird now.
Wrap up anyway.
Yeah, now let's wrap up. It was quite important what you're about. So maybe we can do it another time. Hold on, let me put you on mute. Yeah. But yeah, guys, look, thank you to each and every one of you guys that's joined. It was really, really important what Matisse was about to say just right at the end. There was an important message one particular very, very well-known football Twitter account, Con, who's copying a lot of heat because of him being truthful in the timeline, and that would have been a good message from Matisse. But nonetheless, guys, we had a fantastic stream. To each and every one of you guys, thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate the time that you guys have taken out. Please smash the like button, helps the channel out a lot. If you're here for the first time, subscribe and hit the bell notifications to stay in touch with all my content. And Matisse, thank you, my man, for joining. I'm sure we're going to have you back on in this channel again. And yeah, we're going to have these conversations over and over. It's a long season, so I'm pretty sure we're gonna bounce off each other very soon. But yeah, thanks, Matisse. Thanks for your time. Until next time, see ya.